Hey folks, this is video on the Kalasarpa Yoga that we have in the sky right now. The Kalasarpa Yoga is when all the planets are between Rahu and Ketu in the sky. As you can see by this diagram, all the planets are in between Rahu in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo with Mars. We're going to go over a bunch of charts today which show the recent attacks, US bombs Iran. This just happened. We're going to also go over the chart of when the Iranians took hostages years ago, 9/11 attack, the USA chart, Donald Trump's chart, and a bunch of other charts in this video as well. And certainly encouraging people, if you haven't, to get the Unwinding Karma Rahu in Aquarius, Ketu in Leo web class. If you haven't gotten that yet, you can go to samsspecials.com. Again, this is a transit that's going to be happening between now and November 2026, a huge shift in our life. You can see it's just starting. And in that free web class, I talk about what this shift means for you and all of the 12 signs. You can just go there and register. It's free. And you can also think of getting a quick reading where I look at your chart and the major shifts of 2025 that are happening now. But for now, we are looking at this Rahu Ketu Serpent of Time, this Kalasarpa Yoga that is happening in the sky right now. And you can see all the planets are in between Rahu and Ketu in the sky. This Mars Ketu has just accelerated quite a lot of shifts and intense karmic shifts right now. And I have, paragraph here, some paragraphs I'm going to be reading in a second to go over those things. But again, chief of which has recently developed, we have this war in the Mideast. Of course, Israel started attacking Iran last week. Now Donald Trump and the U.S. military has joined and supposedly has taken out a lot of Iran's nuclear capability and things of that nature. So again, this is a huge escalation. And as it says here, this Kalasarpa Yoga is active until July 29th, which means all the planets will be in between Rahu and Ketu until then, when Mars leaves Leo. And with all the planets trapped between Rahu in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo, this creates this karmic corridor where fate seems to override free will. Again, you can really see how, especially in a lot of this Mideast war, it's hard to think anybody really wants this. Again, I'm sure there are some people who do, particularly Benjamin Netanyahu and people in Israel. They've wanted to bring America into this war to fight their enemies. I'm not going to get too political here, but it's definitely a huge, it's been speculated now for months. And I also felt like when Donald Trump was elected, it wasn't going to benefit Gaza, and he would be easily maneuvered by Netanyahu and Israel to both deal with Gaza and perhaps even expand into Iran. But I had hoped that at least he wouldn't expand into Iran. Now we don't know what's going to happen, but that's on the world stage. But in the personal stage as well, wherever Rahu and Ketu fall for you are going to be important shifts. Again, this is why I'm also doing these updates, because wherever this axis of karma falls for you, based on your ascendant, that's going to be a big shift in your motivations and attachments and drives and desires until November 2026. So again, as it says, we also have this in the backdrop with Saturn in Pisces. Deeper emotional and spiritual truths are surfacing as Saturn is trying to bring us into these, very mystical waters of Pisces, forcing us to confront illusions, dissolve attachments. Jupiter is also in Gemini, adding a restlessness, curious mental energy, but clarity may be elusive until this Kalasarpa Yoga breaks. So again, I just described all of these planets that are sort of trapped in this Kalasarpa corridor, right? Because they're all in between. This Saturn is in Pisces, Jupiter is in Gemini, and of course, Rahu and Ketu, the nodes, are in this axis. And again, this is what I'm looking at when I'm doing these readings. These readings here, these three big shifts are the ones that we're all grappling with all the time, because Saturn is here for a couple years, Jupiter is here for a year, and then the nodes are here until November 2026. So we're seeing the visceral effects now with Mars and Ketu here in Leo. And you can see how these charts, this is the chart of bombing Iran. Fascinating case study here. June 22nd at 2:10 a.m. This is the most accurate data in Qom, Iran. You see it happened. The ascendant was in Bharani Nakshatra in Aries. Bharani literally comes from the same word, which means to bear. And it's to bear the consequences of our actions, to bear the result. You see both the moon was in Bharani, the ascendant was Bharani, and Venus was in Bharani. And of course, this Kalasarpa Yoga. Take a look back at several decades ago, the Iran hostage crisis. Those of you who remember lived through this. November 4th, 1979, this is the day that the Iranians took hostages. After the Iran nation was established April 1st, 1979, then several months later, November 4th, 7 months later, 1979, when the moon was in Bharani, the Iranians took U.S. hostages. And this was when Jupiter and Rahu were in Leo. So this is a reverse nodal return. So when the hostage crisis took place, Jupiter and Rahu were in Leo and Ketu was in Aquarius. Now that we have bombed Iran, again, this is decades later, this is 45 years later, we have Rahu is in Aquarius and Ketu is in Leo, and Mars is joined here. So again, we have this huge shift right now, but you could see this confluence and all these planets in Bharani. The moon was in Bharani that day that they took the hostages, and the moon was in Bharani almost exact degree when these bombs went through and decimated their nuclear facilities. Now, if we look at a couple other charts here, again, if we see these Kalasarpa Yoga here, obviously that's what's happening now, this Kalasarpa Yoga that we just talked about. Well, look who else has a Kalasarpa Yoga in their natal chart. This is the chart of Donald Trump, the president. He was born with a Kalasarpa Yoga as well. All the planets between Rahu and Ketu for him as well. Interestingly, also, these were in fixed signs. Fixed means, that's the modality. His was in Taurus and Scorpio. And right now in the sky, this U.S. bombing Iran, we have Mars, Ketu in Leo. Of course, his ascendant is Mars, his ascendant is Leo, and Mars is there. A few other very interesting parts of this. This is Donald Trump's chart. This is the USA chart. Look at his Ketu moon are right on the ascendant of the USA chart. Now, this is the chart that has been rectified from Ebenezer Sibley. This is the Sibley chart with a slight change and modification. USA has a Scorpio ascendant. You can also see, for example, Benjamin Netanyahu has Mars, Saturn in Leo. He's the prime minister of Israel. He has Mars, Saturn in Leo. His Mars is like the same degree as Donald Trump. Trump's Mars is 340. Netanyahu's Mars is 333. They both have Mars at 3 degrees of Leo. And so, again, very interesting there. And, Trump has Jupiter in Virgo, and Netanyahu has the moon and Ketu in Virgo. Again, this is the Iran nation. They were also born, their nation took place and was conceived of the first day, April 1st, 1979, had Saturn Rahu in Leo and Ketu Venus in Aquarius. So again, when you see the current chart, they're having this reverse natal return. Ketu is on their natal Rahu and vice versa. When we have this reverse return, it's trying to close the loop. So the Iran chart has Saturn Rahu in Leo, which is about this focus on, empire, imperialism, the king. Again, remember this, anything in Leo is getting really concentrated on and perhaps obliterated and destroyed right now. So they have Saturn Rahu in Leo. We don't have a good ascendant because we don't really know exactly what you would draw the ascendant for. This is the day that Ayatollah Khomeini made the announcement that Iran is now a separate republic. But also this Ketu Venus, there's an obsession with Rahu now in Aquarius. Rahu is going over their Ketu Venus in Aquarius, which is about more joy to the people, you would say, listening to the will of the people. And again, this could definitely be a time of revolution in Iran. Again, Trump is already talking about regime change and things like that. By the way, just one more chart here. This chart of 9/11 you see also has Ketu Mars. Very close conjunction, Ketu Mars. It was in Sagittarius, but very similar to the Ketu Mars that we see now in this Iran bombing, Ketu Mars in Aries. And in the 9/11 chart, we have Ketu Mars in Sagittarius. So as it says here, the Ketu Leo influence challenges personal pride. This is on an individual level and leadership roles. While Rahu in Aquarius pushes for collective innovation, surrender the ego, and stay adaptable. These are big lessons. Surrender your need to be the powerful one, stay adaptable, and let this intense time realign you with your deeper purpose. And again, this is a collective way to survive this, not just the Kalasarpa Yoga between now and July 29th, but what's happening in the sky right now. And again, if you haven't gotten this free web class yet, Rahu in Aquarius, Ketu in Leo, resistance is futile. Notice this sort of backdrop when I made this about a month ago. Look at what's happening. Like we're being sort of pulled. It feels like all this karmic fate and destiny is getting pulled in all these different directions. There's a huge backlash now, and I think it's just starting. And again, you can just go and register for that. But a huge backlash right now, and I think it's going to just grow bigger and bigger if U.S. expands into a full-blown war with Iran. These Trump supporters, this MAGA base, they're not going to like this very much. There's going to be a segment that are going to stick with Trump no matter what he does, because on some level there is an aspect of this Trump cult, this MAGA base, that is cultish. There's no question about it, no matter what he does. And that's not some risky thing to say. Not all of them, but a large percentage literally see him as a sort of deity figure. They see him as a great, like God chose Donald Trump. And again, this is very scary. And they didn't vote for this. Again, so this whole thing about, resistance is futile. It's kind of like they didn't vote to have, most of them didn't vote to be pulled into a Mideast war. Even the hardcore MAGA people, even the hardcore MAGA politicians. They're going to really revolt. And so this is a huge thing that we're going to be dealing with. And again, so on the individual level, we all need to look at our own power center, power source, which is this K2 Mars in Leo, and really focus on whether or not we're dissipating our energy or we're, activating it correctly, and align with something that's bigger and see the reflection that's coming back to us in our own life. And particularly, again, we're all having to ponder these issues whether we want to or not. And there's a lot of people who don't. There's a lot of people that have sort of checked out. They check out like, oh, well, the world is just going to take care of itself. Again, yeah, okay. But at some point, we don't all have the luxury and the, quote, privilege to do that. And we're going to have this come up the next year or so, the next year and a half. And that's what I talked about on this web class as well. So again, to read this last part, Kalasarpa Yoga reflects global turmoil, Israel-Iran tension, now the U.S. entering the war with Iran. We have no idea where this will lead. So again, the Kalasarpa Yoga can show fated actions and people relative to the signs and houses involved. So again, as we talked about and we saw, Trump has the Kalasarpa Yoga in his chart. So he's one of these people that's already completely changed the fate of this country. USA has that Scorpio ascendant, which is also right in alignment with his Kalasarpa Yoga, right? So that's really key. And now, as we have this Kalasarpa Yoga taking place in Trump's first house, he does this. So the other thing to understand, of course, and again, we have it up here again, the USA chart here at 28 Scorpio, and Donald Trump's chart, his Kalasarpa Yoga, right here on that exact degree. Now, again, there's also something to really understand about the Iran nation. They were pretty much, this modern Iran nation is a theocracy, right? It was propped up by the U.S. government before the Shah of Iran and whatnot. And Israel, of course, is the holy land of the Jews, but also of the Muslims, the town of Jerusalem. And there's a very ghoulish backdrop to a lot of what's happening now that many people are not aware of this, or they don't understand it well enough. But, something to really understand is that Donald Trump has appointed, his U.S. ambassador to Israel is a man named Mike Huckabee, who used to be the governor of Kentucky, I think. And this guy is a full right-wing, Bible-thumping fanatic. And these people have completely blurred the line between church and state. And blowing up the Middle East is, in some ways, this great fever dream that a lot of these people have, particularly those who want to see what we call the rapture or Armageddon take place. If you don't know about these end times prophecies, first of all, they're not even part of the Bible. It was sort of conflated in the 20th century, extrapolated from different passages. But you have people like Mike Huckabee, who is literally ambassador to Israel, has in his mind, can't wait for the rapture. If you don't understand this, you should. By the way, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is another Christian fanatic who would love nothing more than to literally see Armageddon and the rapture, which is where literally the end of the world, where end time prophecies shows the end, the destruction of Israel and the Jews, the holy land of Christians, and it's the end of the world. The world blows up, And then Jesus comes back and resurrects all the Christians from the dead, and the rest of us go to hell for eternity. Now, again, this sounds bonkers. This sounds demented. Like, who could want that to happen? Or we think that's just symbolic, and people don't really want that. That's just, no, they want it. Mike Pompeo, who used to be Trump's defense secretary and a head of CIA, I think, in the first term. He was also very much a rapture, Armageddon, end times fanatic. You have to understand something. And this is, to me, part that's incredibly scary. And it's also with this Kalasarpa Yoga and this incendiary potential. Go back and look. Mike Huckabee sent a letter to Donald Trump like last week talking about how you, oh great one, were destined by God to come at this moment and basically bring the end times, basically destroy the world. Doesn't say it like that, but he talks about the rapture, and this is his ambassador to Israel. Understand, the U.S. ambassador to Israel thinks the greatest thing that's ever going to happen, the culmination of the Bible and everything he believes, is that one day we can blow up the world and Jesus will come back and all the sinners go to hell, including all the Jews, and all the Christians get resurrected. It's the greatest thing that's ever going to happen. And he's in a position to perhaps engineer it, and so is Donald Trump. Now, again, this might sound insane, like, Sam, you're going way too far. I'm not going way too far. I don't talk about this all the time because it sounds insane. But again, also understand Mike Johnson. If you don't believe me, Google it. Look it up. Mike Johnson, the rapture. Mike Huckabee, the rapture, end times. And Google what it is. Find out what it is. And you'll be absolutely terrified, because this isn't just an abstract concept. It's not an abstraction that they think Donald Trump is the chosen one. The chosen one to do what? Well, they don't think he's the chosen one. They don't think he's Jesus. They think he could be the one that's going to do it. And I mean, again, this might sound incredibly off the wall if you don't know this is possible, or if you don't really see. What happens is people don't think that kind of language is really serious. Well, they don't really mean that literally. No, they mean it literally. This is literal end times prophecy, Armageddon, rapture. There's a holy war in the Middle East, and everything gets destroyed and blown up. That's the end of the world, the end of humanity. Jesus comes back, resurrects the dead, and the rest of us go to hell. And that's the greatest thing that's ever going to happen. That's the culmination of the Bible. And Jesus coming back this is how he comes back. He doesn't just come back somehow. He comes back this way. This is the final thing. So I also want you to understand this Kalasarpa Yoga, this crazy alternate reality. I mean, things are just so weird right now. And again, I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. What I'm saying is there are people who hope it's going to happen. And that's not hyperbolic at all. Go back and read. Go back and Google, Mike Huckabee note to Donald Trump last week or whatever, and read it. Oh, great one, far be it from me to tell you what to do. I'm just your humble servant that you appointed to oversee the Holy Land. But let me tell you, boy, that would be great if we blew the whole damn thing up and went in there and blah. Doesn't say it like that. But they all know how to get to Trump. Oh, great one. Oh, great one. And we saw this, of course, Netanyahu. You see them just flattering him through the press. One of the things that happened is Trump was not so keen on going into Iran or expanding last week. Remember, it was like, oh, I don't know about that. Bibi's doing it on his own. But then do you know what happened? Fox propaganda network went on. They know Trump watches it all the time, and they're like, Look at how strong Bibi is, how strong he is, how great it is. This is great. This is great. This is great. Our leader would be so great if he did it. It would be so great. Trump comes out like the next day. We're doing it. We're doing it. Oh, because somebody else is getting credit for being the strongest, the greatest, the toughest. Netanyahu was. Here, Trump wasn't involved. No, wait. I'm great too. I'm great. What do you mean, Netanyahu? I'm the great one. I'm strong. He'd be nothing without me. And Netanyahu, yes, great. Oh, Donald, think how great it would be, Mr. Trump. You would be the greatest if you were to take care of Iran within 2 days. He's issuing ultimatums. You think he's not played this way? And by the way, I don't care what people think about Kamala Harris or this one or that one. It doesn't. Didn't take Kamala Harris to say this, but she literally said it on the debate stage. He can be easily manipulated by favor or flattery or anything else. Bribery, give him a bunch of money, tell him how great he is, and he'll do whatever you want. Very scary. So this Kalasarpa Yoga, as you saw in his chart, is definitely jacking his whole trip as well. So again, I just want to make sure people know to sign up for the free class here, or I'm sorry, let me go. Yeah, where you can register for this free class at, oh, come on, Sam, get back to it. samspecials.com, right? If you haven't gotten this yet, people love it. And you can really see how this shift of Rahu-Ketu through Aquarius and Leo will affect you, and also see how it will affect you in also coordination with Saturn moving through Pisces, Jupiter moving through Gemini, and also that shift as well in your personal chart. So with that in mind, I will talk to you soon. For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the Astroved certification course, Dattatreya Shiva Baba, in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018. I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic Astrology Teacher. On there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly, and I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.